Today on Sports Central, we'll be over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up here in the SEC in Week 7 of this 2021 college football season. And it'll be over the Ole Miss Rebels and the Tennessee Vols. Crucial matchup for each of these teams coming up in Week 7. Ole Miss is currently ranked as the number 13 team in the nation after a big win against Ole Miss. And Tennessee is also playing pretty well right now, coming off of 2 straight quality wins. So that being said, we'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Ole Miss last week beat Arkansas 52-51. Quite a high-scoring game there. In the end, Ole Miss is 4-1 right now. And, this is a very talented Rebel team. They've been playing outstanding. Their one loss is to Alabama. So once again, this is an Ole Miss team that definitely can make it to a good bowl game come December. As for Tennessee, they beat South Carolina 45-20 last week. An overall solid win. They're 4-2 right now. And beginning of the season, this team didn't look like a very good football team, but the past couple of weeks, they've had 2 dominant wins. So Tennessee, being at home in this matchup, do not sleep on the Bulls. That's for sure. They are 4-2. Game will be on Saturday, October 16th in Knoxville. So the Volunteers are the home team in this matchup. And it'll be a night game as well. 6:30 p.m. Central Time is the kickoff time for this matchup. Spread's going with Ole Miss here by 3. Over-under is a very high value at 82. And your ESPN FPI is going with Tennessee 53.8%. So kind of one of those rare occasions where the spread and the FPI disagree with each other. Ole Miss is favored in the spread. Tennessee is favored in the FPI. Series history, Tennessee leads at 44-19. So obviously Volunteers have had a long-standing history of winning this game between these two teams. And your win streak is Ole Miss by 1. So Rebels did win the last matchup, but you got to consider that game was in 2014. We actually have not seen these two teams play each other since 2014. So it's been a while since we've seen these two teams play each other, so you really can't take into account the series history too much. But, without a doubt, these teams have played each other quite a bit in the past. Stat comparison for this game, Ole Miss has 46 points per game, 31 points allowed. 302 pass yards a game, 259 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 238 passing, 191 rushing. So obviously, if you look at Ole Miss, the one outstanding player on this football team that's a big standout is Matt Corral, without a doubt. He's a very underrated quarterback, very underrated player. You hear a lot about Bryce Young and JT Daniels, Stetson Bennett in the SEC, but you don't hear much about Matt Corral. He's an outstanding quarterback playing a great season so far here in 2021, and he's a big reason why I think the Rebels are a contender as they are right now. Defensively, Ole Miss is a good football team as well statistically, but 191 rush yards allowed per game so far this season. Not a very good stat. This team, if you look at rush yards allowed per game, usually if you can keep that number below 100, you're in a pretty good position, but Ole Miss is approaching 200 with that value there. So that certainly could be improved. But for Tennessee, 41 points per game, 21 points allowed, 220 pass yards a game, 253 rush yards. So this team tends to be more of a rushing offense, it seems. Then for yards allowed, 232 passing, 112 on the rushing side. Previous matchups for each of these teams, of course, Ole Miss beat Arkansas there 52-51. Quite a game. It came down to the wire. And then, of course, Alabama lost to them by 3 touchdowns on the road. But obviously, Crimson Tide, even though they lost last week, that's still a very talented football team. Beat Tulane by 40, 61-21. Beat Austin Peay 54-17. Beat Louisville as well, 43-24. As for Tennessee, you can see where this team and why I say this team looks to be improved over the past couple of weeks. They beat South Carolina 45-20, beat Missouri 62-24. That was a road game, and Tennessee managed to put up 60 points on the Tigers there. So overall, I'd say that was a solid win. Lost to Florida big, 14-38. Florida was ranked 11th at the time. Shut out Tennessee Tech 56-0, and lost to Pittsburgh in a close one, 34-41 was the final score there. So, Tennessee, this is a very talented football team, I think. They've been playing pretty well the past couple of weeks, and having this game at home in a night matchup, I think Ole Miss needs to be aware of that. This could definitely be one of those unexpected upsets in this weekend of college football. Some key points here. Ole Miss, of course, big win against Arkansas last week. Matt Corral, one of the best in the nation, I would say. He's been playing outstanding, to say the least, for the Rebels so far. And I mean, Ole Miss defensively, I mean, there's still a lot to improve on, but I mean, they've played a solid season so far. If you're looking at Ole Miss with a 4-1 record, Tennessee 2 straight quality wins. They look much better than they did in September, if you ask me. I mean, obviously they've only been playing dominant for the past 2 weeks, so you got to keep that up. But I mean, it's a good start. I mean, this Tennessee team hasn't. I mean, especially the past few years. I mean, it's been a struggle for the Volunteers. So I would say this team is definitely in the right direction, and they could get a huge quality win with a win here. I mean, this would put this team in a pretty good position to get to a decent bowl game if they were to get to 5-2 after a big Ole Miss win. And they've also got the home field advantage. Once again, I did talk about that with it being a night game in Knoxville. That will give the Volunteers an advantage. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Ole Miss and Tennessee. Gonna go with the Volunteers here. I'm picking the upset in this matchup. 34-31 is my predicted final score. It's gonna be close, and I'm sure most of you Ole Miss fans are not gonna like this, but I'm gonna go Tennessee here. I'm gonna branch out and go with an upset here. I'm gonna say 51% towards Tennessee, so it's gonna be just as close as you can get, and I would not be shocked at all to see Ole Miss get the win. But Tennessee, I like this team at home. I mean, if they can finish this game, like that's been somewhat of an issue in the past, is finishing their games. But I think Tennessee, this is a football team that if they can not shoot themselves in the foot, I mean, they could get a big win here, I think, in this matchup against Ole Miss. And your over-under is 82, pretty high value there. I'm taking the under, though, in this matchup by a decent amount. I mean, it could be a shootout, but I don't think there's going to be over 82 points scored. I mean, it's possible with 2 high-powered offenses, it looks to be right now, but I'm not expecting it by any means. So, but let me know your thoughts and comments below on this prediction and on this game in the comments, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.